Hello, in this tutorial we are going to learn how to remove the duplicate elements from an integer array using the Cpplinq library. As target board I'm going to be using an ESP32 Firebittle board from the Robot. Note however that Cpplinq is a generic C++ library which can be used as a regular Arduino library, and basically we can target other microcontrollers such as the ESP3266. So moving on to the actual code, the first thing we are going to do is including the Cpplinq library so we can have access to all its operators. Then we are going to declare the using of the Cpplinq namespace, pretty much like we have been doing in previous tutorials, so we can access all the functions from this namespace without using the scope resolution operator, which leads to a more compact code. Then we are going to write the rest of our code in the Arduino setup function. So the first thing we are going to do, as usual, is opening a serial connection so we can output the results of our program. After that, we are going to define an array of integers, which, as can be seen here, has some duplicated elements, and at the end we expect to obtain a sequence with all the duplicated elements removed. So this is the objective of our program. So once we have our array of integers with some duplicated elements, we can start operating over this, and basically are going to start building our expression tree. Recall from previous tutorials that before we can start applying Cpplinq operators, we need to convert our array to a range object, and this is basically done with this from_array function that receives as input our original array, and it will return a range representing this sequence of elements. After that, we can start applying the Cpplinq operators, and in our case it will be really trivial to get all the distinct elements of this range. So to filter out all the duplicates, we only need to call this distinct operator from the Cpplinq library. Basically it receives no arguments and it will return to us a new range only with distinct elements, which is the same as removing all the duplicates. After that, we need to convert it back to a data type that we can iterate, and the easiest way is to call this toVector function that will return to us a C++ vector with the final range, the range that no longer has duplicated elements, and then after we have this vector, we can iterate over each element and print each element to the serial port, so we can check that all the duplicates were removed. Note that, like we did before, we are using this auto keyword here, so we don't need to explicitly say what is the output data type. So basically the compiler will infer this for us, making the syntax a little bit shorter. Then, naturally, as I've mentioned, this result corresponds to a C++ vector, so we are going to iterate over each element of this vector, as you can see here, and then printing each element to the serial port, so we can check that the final range, or in this case the final vector we have obtained, now no longer contains duplicated elements. Basically this here is a separator character, so for us to be able to better see the result. And this is it, very simple. That's one of the advantages of using the Cpplinq library. Obviously, we can argue if implementing this distinct operator by hand with a simple for loop would be simpler or not. Nonetheless, don't forget that the idea of Cpplinq library is that we can chain multiple of these operators using this operator here. So in many cases, we might be using this distinct operator in a more complex expression tree. And if we did all that expression tree using regular loops, it would be much more complex than using these operators chained together, which leads to a much more readable code. So I've already uploaded this code to my ESP32. We are going to check here, and as you can see, we no longer have any duplicated element, and as expected, we have obtained, and I'm running it again, so you can check it running from scratch, but basically we no longer have duplicated elements, and we only have distinct elements in our final sequence. Basically, we converted it to a C++ vector, but the idea here is that we no longer have duplicated elements. So this is it, very trivial to do this with C++ library. It's a very, very powerful library. It can lead our code to be much, much more readable. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed.